Good afternoon. This is video log entry 174. It's about 1 p.m. CST, and I've been doing my standard stuff as usual. So I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about character and like cultivating certain parts of my character as usual, because I did say that I wanted that to be a big focus of mine for this year, and I was thinking about like how, like what I consider my weaknesses to be. I consider myself to be more, I would say, quote unquote, methodical. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily a person that likes to think on my feet. I can if I have to, but for the most part, I tend to not be. I mean, I wouldn't say it's necessarily not be able to think on my feet. I think some people are better at thinking on their feet than I am, and so I usually let people do that for me instead of me, because I get indecisive about things, and I don't know. I just feel like I have to weigh out every single variable, and I was thinking, it's like, well, I mean, I guess I could potentially get better at that, and it has gotten better because I've had jobs where I actually didn't have to, I have to think on my own, right? It's like, at a certain pace, because if you work in a fast-paced job, you can't necessarily um, try to calculate everything. So you have to use your intuition more as opposed to using that other side where I mean, it's a balance between the two, but you can't necessarily know all of the variables. So um, I think it's a nice mix between intuition and logic and whatnot. So I think some people tend to be more on the intuitive side, and some people tend to be more on the logical side. And the people that tend to be more logical tend to also think a little bit slower in comparison to the people that are using their intuition, for the most part. For the most part. So yeah, I mean, I've gotten much better, as opposed to how I was a few years ago. I mean, again, like, it's just doing kind of like um, using those parts of your brain more, right? It's actually using those circuits, if you want to call it that, to hardwire it to become more of a, you know, to just think faster. You just had to, it's like, going to the gym and, lifting weights, right? It's through, what do they call it? It's like something overload, where you tend to go a little bit more than what you did the day before or whatever. So it's the same thing with anything that you're trying to train through deliberate practice, is by starting off small and then eventually going through incremental change to make it um, more oh my god, my brain. Somewhere, I just like, I don't, I'm usually not this bad at finding words. I don't know what has been up with my brain recently, but anyways, yeah, just to make it better. I don't know. Like, I'm using very simplistic words right now because my brain is like, bleh, I don't know. Yeah, I haven't been reading though. I don't know. And I also haven't been talking to anybody, and anyways, whatever. Yeah. Also, so I'm kind of like in a small rut where my brain is more in its modus operandi. It's in a more comfortable place, so it tends to think slower. It likes to be methodical and likes to believe that it has control over certain things. So I just let it operate in that form. So yeah, I don't know. So I mean, like, video games are pretty good with that too, because you have to think on your feet when you're playing fast-paced video games like PvP, and Guild Wars 2 is sort of like that. It's also pretty reactive though. That's the only sad thing about the game. But there are other yeah, like MOBA style games are not really reactive, but you still have to think on your feet. Like what's that other game called? I'm usually I don't know what is up with my game brain, but there's League of Legends, of course, and then there's another game called some it. What is that game called? I'm thinking Stargate right now, but there's another game, because of Project Stargate, with the thing with Trump that he announced 2 nights ago. And of course, that was cool for me, because I'm kind of interested in that stuff. Especially with the fact that it's gonna potentially create a lot of jobs and whatnot. I'm hoping, because um, I'm more in the but they may actually have a lot of data analysts and AI trainers in those areas. So I was actually looking to the AI trainer position, and as soon as they mentioned that, like a few hours later, well, not mention it, but I started thinking about it more the day before, and that showed up. I was like, oh, well, I have something to be optimistic about when it comes to finding a job, if you're looking for AI related positions. And yeah, so anyways, that was a tangent. it seems I don't know what companies were working on that. I think it was OpenAI, Oracle, and a couple of other ones. I don't know. I think Nvidia has something to do with it, and yeah. So they're I guess they're kind of I guess just throwing into the pile of money to help out with expanding the infrastructure of artificial intelligence, which is great. So they're going to have a bunch of data centers. I don't know like how big the square footage is, but that's going to be down in Texas supposedly, which is cool stuff. That's cool stuff. Yeah. So what the hell was that game called? I'm probably not going to remember. So yeah, I don't know. So playing more slower paced games and chess is not necessarily. I mean, unless you're playing fast paced chess, but that's based off of a given pattern. I think fast thinking also requires you. I was kind of thinking about this. It's like fast thinking is kind of only curated through repetition to an extent, or at least pattern recognition from prior experience. So the only way you can really be a person that thinks on their feet is just by being exposed to a lot of patterns, right? And then you can overlay those patterns to then come up with a quick decision about something without necessarily knowing everything about it. So I mean, it's just through a lot of exposure and different kinds of data as well. It's not necessarily one kind of data. Um, I'm just saying, like variability of data is very important for fast decision making when it comes to I mean, not being when it comes to running something that you may not be completely familiar with, because then you have a bigger pool of data to work off of as opposed to a smaller one, right? And then you can impose a pattern recognition mechanism to then make a decision that is more accurate than somebody that is more kind of focused in one domain, right? So I don't know. I was thinking about that, and I think that's another reason why I think about curating soft skills. And I didn't mention that obviously another thing that is a part of soft skills is problem solving and having a capacity to think critically. And I think there was another thing I was missing. It's common sense and street smarts, I guess. So yeah, like common sense and street smarts, and having a good intuition to an extent too. Is but that's also through just kind of being exposed to a lot of data. So that's the reason why I kind of like exposing myself to a variability of data as opposed to being hyper focused in one area, because I guess I would be a jack of all trades, master of none archetype to an extent. But I think it's fairly important in this world. I know there was a TEDx talk about it too, where um, like the creator of the Game Boy wasn't necessarily hyper talented in one domain, but he due to the fact that he wasn't, or it could have been just due to the fact that he wasn't interested in being hyper focused in one domain, he kind of he was exposed to a lot of different ideas, and people who are exposed to a lot more ideas tend to be more creative, and he created the Game Boy out of that, and some story like that. And then there was another guy that was a sports player who did the same thing, and he was a quote unquote late bloomer due to the fact that he was exposing himself to a variety of data that then kind of manifested as a very like a hyper talented individual in his later 30s, just because of the fact that he spent more time exploring and increasing the pool of just exposure, I guess. And so so you get a lot of late bloomers like that too, and I'm sure there are a lot more examples. Those the only reason I was thinking about that was because I watched a TEDx talk on it. I don't remember who the guy was because it was a few months ago. But yeah, so I'm kind of one of those people, I guess. I would say I have a pretty high general intelligence, and due to the fact that I have a pretty high general intelligence, I should be using it in all areas as opposed to kind of putting myself in one box, I guess would be a good way to say it. And yeah, I mean, it's just a way of cultivating creativity and also creating safety nets due to the rise of artificial intelligence. And of course, even though I'm interested in artificial intelligence and eventually becoming an AI trainer or a prompt engineer or some form of a hypervisor over these systems, I would still like something that can make me sleep well at night, I guess. So I mean, I know I'm having trouble. I don't know why, but my brain is just not thinking about the right words, and I'm still kind of waking up. I just had some coffee earlier this morning, and I'm kind of crashing. And I was also like looking at different things about money and all that stuff, and that's kind of more personal. And I went to my bank and all that, and I'm so I think I'm also going to drop the price on my bike because it's a little bit too expensive, even though it's fine. I mean, there are a few things here and there that I feel like should have a good reason for me to deduce the price, even though deduct the price. Um, and I'm thinking about like I'm not sure if I'm gonna include the helmet or the lock. I don't know if that's deterring anybody. I don't think there would be a good reason for that. I mean, it seems like a pretty good deal. It's 50% off with a helmet and quote unquote free helmet and bike lock. Seems fine to me. And I guess I should have posted on Craigslist. I forgot to do that just to increase the visibility. And yeah, so I mean, so speaking of visibility, I've been doing that more too. I've been kind of like using Perplexity as a way of like finding like where recruiters look and different companies, and I've been curating those profiles to make myself more visible to the world. And I also it's nice to have a like LinkedIn, right? You can actually have a face. Indeed, you can't do that necessarily, so it's kind of it's good to have your face on there so people will have like a general idea of who you are. You can tell a lot by somebody's picture actually. So ZipRecruiter can do that too, and I believe Glassdoor and Monster, you can probably put a profile picture on there. So I've been looking at those and different websites for that. And aside from that, those are the big ones. And then, of course, I'm still looking at remote work. Just it's kind of hard for me because for entry-level remote work, I'd probably be doing guest services because I don't really have a quote-unquote hard skill. I mean, I have experience with Python, but then that's like I don't really have anything to show for it because I don't have any projects that I finished. Same thing with C and Linux. It's like, well, how can you show that then through your knowledge of it? But then at the same time, you would have to get into the interview phase for that. It's like just to show they have some sort of relative understanding of those languages, and my knowledge of Python is actually somewhat deteriorated, and yeah, so I just it would be difficult. It would certainly be difficult. I'm having trouble focusing right now. My brain keeps going to other places. It would be extremely difficult. So not extremely, but I don't know. I mean, I need to know at least one scripting language. With my biggest one is Python, because Bash is kind of annoying to read, and I'd prefer to use Python as a scripting language because I guess I'm somewhat familiar with it. And yeah, so it's good to know at least one in this world, in this modern digital world. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, just a lot of pondering really, and again, like I said, cultivating character, and I was looking at videos on just random stuff. Mainly, it's just me. I don't know. I didn't really have anything in mind. I just got up, I drank some coffee, and then I started just scrolling through my email, and then I just went onto the websites I typically go to, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I didn't even apply to any jobs today, so I should do that to at least a couple. And I also had some DoorDash yesterday. I procrastinated on my gym routine or my exercise routine, so I had to do that today, and then I had to do it tomorrow again. So I need to kickstart that again, and so yeah, I don't know. My brain has been very mushy. It's always mushy. I think it's just going through a burnout phase because I've been so busy. Mainly, I wouldn't say I've been busy, but I've been my headspace has been more concerned about worrying about things incessantly, which is it's like I'm a constant worrier. I wish I didn't worry so much so I can invest more energy on things that are more important, but yeah, and then my anxiety really tears apart my energy too. I mean, I'm just like I would say my neuroticism is pretty high, unfortunately, because I could be using energy on not worrying so much, actually getting things done, but my brain tends to constantly, it's always in the background worrying about something, which is I mean, that's understandable since I don't have a job and whatnot. So, and I think anybody that's unemployed would probably be kind of in the same boat, but it tends to be more amplified for me. So it's exhausting being in states like this. Whatever, whatever. So, yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything else to talk about as of now. Um, yeah, I don't really have anything else. I may take a midday nap and just do some normal routine stuff today, and that's it.